Now that you've completed the business process requirement session, the BPR, we can talk about how to polish off and really complete out the RDO, or the requirements design overview document. And we really want to get this document really polished, really detailed, and fully completed so that we can send it over to the client and get sign off. This document is going to tell the client not only what you're going to complete in the project, but how you're going to complete those requirements so that everyone is happy. This is a very important document to keep the project organized, and it's very important to leave behind to the client so they know exactly what happened in the project and what to expect by the time you finish the project. So let's jump into that RDO document and get started filling it out. All right, so here we are in the requirements and design overview document. You can see, like every other template that we utilize in this course, everything is already mocked up and ready for you to use. You just have to swap in the materials that are specific to your project and what you're doing for your client. So you can see simple things like in our other templates, you can enter your logo here. So that's very simple. You just delete out the placeholder there. You can go to Insert, and you want to have a picture of your logo already on your computer. And then you just toss in your logo and it shows up right away and you're good to go. So now, as long as you're keeping it simple, this is a very simple way to brand your material that you're sending over to your client. You should be able to leave this entire section exactly the way it is. So all this does is it calls out that the purpose of the document is to give an overview of what the requirements and solutions are for the entire project. And it's letting your client know that the audience is actually the business users. This isn't necessarily meant for a technical person. So this should be readable by some. It may be a little more difficult for some of the management positions who aren't directly involved in the actual work going on in Salesforce, but more just dictating what needs to be done for the project. But this will be very easily readable for the actual end users or technical users that will be reviewing the document for accuracy and requirements. And there's a small subset here for design assumptions. It just says that this should be fundamentally accurate to what's going to happen in the project. However, some minor changes could happen to this design as the project moves forward, because you do have to be flexible and adjustments have to be made to sort of work in issues that may come up in the project, but you always want to keep this document updated to the final solution. So at the end of the project, you can hand this over to the client and let them know exactly what was done in the project. So the first section are the business systems. Right now, this lays out Salesforce is always going to be your first business system, but you can always bring in other tools such as ERP systems like NetSuite or SAP. And also think about marketing automation tools like Pardot, Marketing Cloud. Some companies will use tools like Marketo or Eloqua. So there are a lot of different systems that can be integrated with Salesforce or used in conjunction with Salesforce. And this is where you want to fill those systems in. Now, the next section, we move into the design details. You want to break out each process or object, and usually those end up being one and the same. So I do recommend using this document and actually filling in an object here. So for instance, here we have the lead object pre-filled for you. So if you said, yes, I want to start with the lead object, all you have to do is highlight the section, type in lead, and now you have your lead requirements overview. For the first object here, the lead, I've left a lot of pre-filled information so that you can get a feel for how this document will flow, what the requirement column is going to look like, what the accounted for through. So this is your requirement and this is your solution. And you can change this to solution if you prefer that, but accounted for through is basically just a way of saying that we are going to account for this requirement by filling in this solution. So for instance, on the first one, ability to track the lead process through a logical progression. And the solution here is to utilize the lead status field in order to capture your lead process, utilizing the following agreed upon values: mass upload, new, connected, in progress, and qualified. So you're calling out not necessarily exactly down to the detail what you're going to do to make this happen, but you're giving them an overview, letting them know that we do have a solution for this problem. This is going to work, and we have a way to solve. If you don't have a way to solve, you'll definitely want to call that out here and maybe highlight it red or something like that. And for some of these, you may use something very similar, like a lead process here. You may very well have a lead status progression that follows a lead process for the client. All you would have to do is update these values that they want to use, and then just remove the highlighting. And then you're ready to go, and you can just move through each one of these. So we have some other examples here that you can move through. You can see ability to capture original lead sources, mapping information through lead mapping, capturing things like conversion events, preventing duplicates in the system. There are a few different things here that are pretty standard to a typical Sales Cloud or even a Service Cloud implementation. So I left those in here so that you can utilize some examples. Now, the next thing we're going to move into is, again, you would just come in here, and this would be lead automations and validations. So what happens is we have a requirement and we have a solution. You'll see in a couple of examples here, we have an automation as the solution and a validation as the solution. So what you want to do is, instead of actually writing out the entire automation in the solution section or the entire validation in the solution section, you want to highlight that you have to reference automation 1 and then highlight to reference validation 1. And if you have multiples of these, you might have another line down here that says, if this were another automation rule for this solution, you would just paste that in and say automation 2. And the way that that works is you actually come down to your automation and validation table.